In the year 2047, the world was a mix of wonder and chaos. Technology had advanced so much that machines could think, learn, and even make decisions on their own. Cities were filled with towering buildings covered in glowing screens, and cars floated silently through the air. But beneath all this progress lay deep divisions among people. Some believed technology would save humanity, while others feared it would destroy them. In Washington, D.C., Senator Pam Bondi sat at her desk in a quiet corner of her office. Her sharp eyes scanned the latest reports about artificial intelligence, or AI. She wasn't new to politics. She'd been in the game for decades, but she felt more pressure now than ever before. The country was divided, and she knew that. One wrong move could tip the balance. Pam was known for being tough, smart, and unafraid to speak her mind. She had spent years fighting to keep AI under strict government control because she believed it was too dangerous to leave unchecked. Across town, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was preparing for a meeting with some of the biggest names in tech. Unlike Pam, Jasmine was younger and full of energy. She saw AI as the key to solving many of the world's problems, from curing diseases to ending poverty. To her, limiting its growth meant holding back human potential. Her speeches often painted a picture of a future where humans and machines worked together in harmony. But not everyone agreed with her vision. The tension between Pam and Jasmine had been building for months. They came from different backgrounds and held opposing views on almost everything. While Pam saw AI as a threat, Jasmine viewed it as an opportunity. Their debates in Congress were heated, and sometimes they barely spoke to each other outside of official settings. Still, neither woman could deny the other's passion or determination. That morning, something happened that changed everything. A massive explosion rocked Dallas, Texas, sending shockwaves across the nation. News outlets reported that thousands of people were killed or injured when AI-powered delivery drones malfunctioned during a routine operation. Video footage showed fiery wreckage scattered across streets, and families cried over lost loved ones. It was a disaster unlike anything anyone had seen before. As soon as news broke, phones started ringing off the hook in both Pam's and Jasmine's offices. Reporters wanted statements, colleagues demanded answers, and citizens looked to their leaders for guidance. Pam wasted no time addressing the tragedy. Standing in front of cameras in a packed press room, she spoke with authority and anger. "This is exactly what I've been warning about," she said, her voice steady but firm. "When we let corporations push the limits of technology without proper oversight, innocent lives are put at risk." Jasmine watched Pam's speech from her office, shaking her head. She didn't agree with Pam's approach, but she couldn't ignore the seriousness of the situation either. Later that day, she held her own press conference. Surrounded by members of her team, she tried to reassure the public. "We cannot let fear dictate our future," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "Yes, there was a terrible accident, but we must focus on finding solutions, not shutting down innovation." While the two women exchanged words on television, another story was unfolding behind the scenes. Lisa Carter, a young journalist working for the Daily Pulse, was following the story closely. Lisa wasn't like most reporters. She cared deeply about uncovering the truth, even if it meant going against powerful forces. When she heard about the explosion, something didn't sit right with her. Why had those drones failed? Was it really just a random malfunction, or was there more to it? Determined to find out, Lisa began digging into the incident. She reached out to sources, pored over documents, and analyzed data. One name kept coming up: Novatech Industries. They were the company behind the drones, and they were also one of the largest developers of AI systems in the world. Lisa discovered that Novatech had recently received approval to test their drones in urban areas, despite concerns raised by safety experts. This discovery made her suspicious. One evening, after hours of research, Lisa stumbled upon something unusual. Hidden, deep within a set of encrypted files, was a series of emails between Novatech executives and government officials. The messages hinted at a rushed timeline for deploying the drones, bypassing normal safety checks. Lisa's heart raced as she read through the exchanges. If these emails were real and authentic, they could prove that the explosion wasn't just an accident. Someone might have known the risks and ignored them anyway. But getting access to the full files wasn't easy. Whoever had uploaded them had taken precautions to keep them secure. Frustrated but undeterred, Lisa decided to seek help. She contacted Alex Moore, a former engineer who used to work at Novatech. Alex had left the company years ago after disagreeing with their practices, and Lisa hoped he might shed light on what she had found. When they met at a small cafe downtown, Alex listened carefully as Lisa explained her findings. He nodded thoughtfully, his expression grim. "I'm not surprised," he said finally. "There's always pressure to meet deadlines, especially when big contracts are involved. Safety protocols get overlooked, corners get cut. It happens, more often than you'd think." Alex agreed to look at the files Lisa had uncovered. Over the next few days, they worked together, piecing together fragments of information. What they found was alarming. Internal memos revealed that Novatech had been warned multiple times about potential flaws in the drone software. Yet instead of fixing the issues, the company pushed ahead with deployment, claiming the risks were minimal. Lisa knew she was onto something big, but she also realized how dangerous it could be. Exposing Novatech wouldn't just upset a powerful corporation, it could shake the entire political system. As she prepared to write her article, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Strange cars lingered near her apartment and her phone seemed to glitch at odd moments. Still, she refused to back down. For Lisa, this wasn't just about breaking a story, it was about holding people accountable. Meanwhile, Pam and Jasmine continued their verbal battle, each trying to sway public opinion. Pam called for an immediate halt to all AI testing until stricter regulations were put in place. "We owe it to the victims and their families to ensure this never happens again," she declared during a Senate hearing. Jasmine countered by arguing that halting progress would only delay the benefits AI could bring. "We need to fix the problems, not abandon the technology altogether," she insisted. Despite their differences, both women shared a common goal: protecting the people they served. Yet as the investigation into the explosion dragged on, cracks began to show in their arguments. Questions arose about funding, lobbying, and hidden agendas. Who truly stood to gain from the rise of AI, and who stood to lose? As the days turned into weeks, the nation remained gripped by uncertainty. The explosion in Dallas had exposed vulnerabilities not just in the technology itself, but in the systems designed to govern it. For Pam, Jasmine, and Lisa, the road ahead promised to be long and difficult. Each of them carried their own burdens, doubts, and hopes. But one thing was certain: the choices they made would shape the future, for better or worse. And so, amidst the chaos and confusion, the stage was set for a showdown unlike any other. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome hung precariously in the balance. Whatever happened next, it was clear that nothing would ever be the same again. The tension in Washington, D.C. was thick enough to cut with a knife. Senator Pam Bondi sat at her desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and glowing screens. The documents Lisa Carter had given her were spread out in front of her, each page filled with damning evidence against Novatech Industries. Pam's mind raced as she tried to figure out her next move. This wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about survival. Pam knew that exposing Novatech would be dangerous. The company had deep pockets and powerful allies. If she acted too soon or without solid proof, they could crush her. But if she waited too long, the trail might go cold and the truth would stay buried forever. She needed a plan, and fast. Across town, Jasmine Crockett was dealing with her own problems. Her relationship with Novatech had always been complicated, but now it felt like a noose tightening around her neck. Richard Grayson's call still echoed in her mind. "We all go down together," he'd said. Those words haunted her. For the first time, Jasmine wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake trusting him. Her chief strategist, Kevin Doyle, had become distant and evasive. When she finally cornered him in the hallway, his face turned pale. "Kevin," she said, sharply, "what's going on? You've been avoiding me." He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder before speaking. Jasmine, I think you need to prepare yourself. Something big is coming, something that could ruin us both. What are you talking about? She demanded, her voice rising. Kevin shook his head. I can't say more. Just be careful who you trust. Before she could press him further, he hurried away, leaving her standing alone in the corridor. Jasmine clenched her fists, anger and fear bubbling inside her. She didn't like being kept in the dark, especially when her career and maybe even her freedom was on the line. Meanwhile, Lisa Carter worked tirelessly to gather more evidence. With Alex Moore's help, she hacked deeper into Novatech's systems, uncovering files that painted an even darker picture. One document outlined a secret project called Erebus, a top-secret initiative to develop AI capable of manipulating human behavior. Another file listed names of politicians and executives who had accepted bribes to support Novatech's agenda. Lisa knew this information was explosive, but she also realized how risky it was to publish it. She wasn't naive. People who crossed Novatech tended to disappear, or worse. Still, she couldn't back down. Too many lives depended on the truth coming out. One night, as Lisa typed furiously on her laptop, her phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. Stop digging. You don't know what you're messing with. Her heart skipped a beat. Someone was watching her. She immediately called Sam Bennett, the retired cybersecurity expert who had agreed to help her. When she told him about the message, his tone turned serious. This isn't a game anymore, he said. They're warning you because they're scared. That means you're close to something big. I'm not stopping, Lisa replied firmly. Not now. Sam sighed. Fine. But we need to take precautions. Meet me tomorrow morning. I'll set up secure channels for communication. And whatever you do, don't trust anyone. The next day, Lisa met Sam at a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. He handed her a small device, a burner phone loaded with encrypted apps. Use this to contact me, he instructed, and delete everything sensitive from your personal devices. Assume they're already compromised. As Lisa left the cafe, she noticed a black car parked across the street. Two men sat inside, their faces obscured by shadows. Her stomach churned, but she forced herself to keep walking. She couldn't let fear stop her, not when she was so close to exposing the truth. Back in Congress, Pam Bondi prepared to make her move. She called an emergency hearing, inviting experts, whistleblowers, and journalists to testify about the dangers of unchecked AI development. The room was packed, cameras rolling as Pam took her seat at the head of the table. This hearing is about accountability, she began, her voice steady and commanding. We owe it to the victims of the Dallas explosion, and to every citizen, to ensure that such a tragedy never happens again. Today we will examine the role of corporations like Novatech in shaping our future. As witnesses spoke, the evidence mounted. Engineers described shortcuts taken during development, safety protocols ignored, and warnings dismissed. One whistleblower revealed that Novatech had knowingly released flawed software to meet deadlines, putting profits ahead of people. The testimony sent shockwaves through the audience. Jasmine watched from the sidelines, her face unreadable. Inside, however, she was reeling. Every word spoken confirmed her worst fears. She had been played, used as a pawn in Novatech's game. Now she had to decide whether to fight back or protect herself. That evening, Jasmine received another call from Richard Grayson. His tone was icy. You need to get your house in order, he said. This hearing is bad for business. Fix it, or else, Jasmine snapped. Or else what? You'll destroy me? Go ahead, see if I care. She hung up before he could respond, her hands trembling. For the first time, she felt truly alone. Her allies were slipping away, and her enemies were closing in. But instead of retreating, she decided to fight back. She reached out to Kevin, demanding answers. When they met late that night in a secluded park, Kevin looked nervous. I did something stupid, he admitted. I leaked some information to a reporter. I thought it would scare them off, but I think I made things worse. Jasmine stared at him, stunned. Who did you talk to? A journalist named Lisa Carter, Kevin confessed. She's working on a story about Novatech. I didn't tell her much, but Jasmine cut him off. You idiot. Do you realize what you've done? I'm sorry, Kevin stammered. I didn't know what else to do. Jasmine walked away, her mind spinning. She needed to find Lisa, and fast. If the journalist published her findings, Jasmine's career would be over. But if she could convince Lisa to hold off, maybe there was still a chance to salvage something. The next morning, Jasmine tracked Lisa down at her apartment. When Lisa opened the door, she was surprised to see the congresswoman standing there. What do you want? Lisa asked warily. I need to talk to you, Jasmine said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. I know you're investigating Novatech, and I know you have evidence that could bring them down. Lisa crossed her arms. So what? Why should I trust you? Because I'm not who you think I am, Jasmine replied. Yes, I took money from Novatech. Yes, I supported their agenda. But I didn't know how far they were willing to go. They lied to me, manipulated me, and now they're trying to silence me. For a moment, Lisa considered walking away. But something in Jasmine's voice rang true. Reluctantly, she listened as Jasmine laid out her side of the story. By the end, Lisa wasn't sure whether to believe her, but she knew one thing for certain. The stakes were higher than ever. As the days passed, alliances shifted and secrets unraveled. Pam Bondi prepared to release the evidence Lisa had provided, knowing it would ignite a firestorm. Jasmine Crockett wrestled with guilt and regret, torn between protecting herself and doing the right thing. And Lisa Carter continued her pursuit of the truth, determined to shine a light on the darkness, even if it cost her everything. In the shadows, powerful forces moved silently, ready to strike. The battle lines had been drawn, and the outcome was far from certain. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear: the world would never be the same again. The final chapter of the Novatech scandal unfolded with a speed and intensity that left the nation breathless. The evidence against the company had become impossible to ignore, and public outrage reached a fever pitch. Protesters filled the streets, in cities across America, chanting slogans like "No More Lies" and "Justice for Dallas." Lawmakers faced mounting pressure to act, and even some of Novatech's closest allies began distancing themselves from the embattled corporation. Senator Pam Bondi and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stood together on the steps of the Capitol building, addressing a crowd of reporters and citizens. It was an unusual sight. Two women who had once been bitter rivals now united by a shared mission. This is not about politics, Pam said, her voice steady but impassioned. It's about doing what's right. We cannot allow corporations to put profits above people. Not anymore. Jasmine stepped forward, her tone softer but equally resolute. I made mistakes, she admitted, looking directly into the cameras. I trusted the wrong people, and I let my ambition blind me. But I am here today to make things right, to ensure that no one else suffers because of greed and negligence. Their words resonated deeply with the public. For weeks, people had watched as the scandal unfolded, their trust in leaders and institutions shaken. Now, seeing Pam and Jasmine stand side by side gave them a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, change was possible. Behind the scenes, however, the fight was far from over. Novatech fought back with everything it had. Richard Grayson, the company's CEO, launched a desperate campaign to discredit the investigation. Fake news stories flooded social media, accusing Pam and Jasmine of fabricating evidence. Lawyers filed lawsuits alleging defamation and conspiracy, and private investigators worked tirelessly to dig up dirt on anyone involved. But the tide was turning. Whistleblowers continued to come forward, adding to the mountain of evidence against Novatech. Former employees described toxic work environments where safety concerns were routinely ignored. Engineers recounted being pressured to cut corners and meet unrealistic deadlines. Even some investors turned on the company, demanding answers and accountability. Lisa Carter remained at the center of it all, though she was no longer in the public eye. After Sam Bennett helped her escape to a safe house, Lisa went underground, continuing her work in secret. She collaborated with Pam's team, providing additional documents and insights that strengthened the case against Novatech. Her exposé had sparked a global conversation about the dangers of unchecked AI development, and she knew her role in exposing the truth was far from finished. One evening, as Lisa reviewed new files sent by a confidential source, she received a message from Sam. "They're closing in," he warned. "Novatech hired mercenaries to track you down. You need to move again." Lisa sighed, exhaustion weighing heavily on her shoulders. "How much longer can we keep running?" "As long as it takes," Sam replied. "You're too important to give up now." With Sam's help, Lisa relocated to another safe house, this time in a remote area outside the city. She spent her days analyzing data and writing follow-up articles, knowing that every word she published brought them closer to justice. Though she missed her old life, she refused to let fear stop her. Too many lives depended on her staying strong. Back in Washington, Pam and Jasmine worked tirelessly to push their legislation through Congress. The bill, titled the Artificial Intelligence Accountability Act, aimed to impose strict regulations on AI development and ban invasive technologies, like those outlined in the Erebus Project. It faced fierce opposition from lobbyists and tech industry giants, but Pam and Jasmine refused to back down. "We owe it to the victims of Dallas, and to everyone who believes in a better future," Pam told her colleagues during a heated debate on the Senate floor. "If we fail to act now, we risk repeating the same mistakes. Is that what we want our legacy to be?" Jasmine echoed her sentiments in the House of Representatives. "This isn't just about punishing Novatech," she said. "It's about setting a precedent, a clear message that humanity must always come first. If we lose sight of that, we lose ourselves." Their determination inspired others to join the cause. Lawmakers from both parties crossed the aisle to support the bill, recognizing its importance. Even some of Novatech's former allies switched sides, unwilling to be associated with a company under such heavy scrutiny. As the vote approached, tensions ran high. Protesters gathered outside the Capitol holding signs and chanting slogans. Inside, lawmakers debated late into the night, weighing the pros and cons of the proposed regulations. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the moment arrived. The votes were tallied, and the results were announced. The Artificial Intelligence Accountability Act has passed, the Speaker of the House declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. Cheers erupted as Pam, Jasmine, and their supporters embraced, tears streaming down their faces. It was a historic victory, one that marked a turning point in the nation's approach to technology. But the fight wasn't over yet. Novatech still wielded significant power, and its executives weren't ready to surrender. In a last-ditch effort to save the company, Richard Grayson called an emergency meeting with his board of directors. "We need to take drastic measures," he said, his tone desperate. "If we don't act now, we'll lose everything." The board agreed to launch a counterattack, filing lawsuits against the government and funding smear campaigns against Pam and Jasmine. They even attempted to bribe key officials to delay implementation of the new regulations, but their efforts only fueled more outrage, further damaging their reputation. In the end, justice caught up with Novatech. Federal agents raided the company's headquarters, seizing documents and equipment. Richard Grayson and several top executives were arrested and charged with conspiracy, fraud, and manslaughter. The Erebus Project was dismantled, its blueprints destroyed to prevent future misuse. For Pam and Jasmine, the victory was bittersweet. Both women had sacrificed much to get here. Pam's health had deteriorated from stress, and Jasmine's political career was forever tarnished. Yet they found solace in knowing they had made a difference. Their unlikely alliance had shown that even the deepest divides could be bridged when the stakes were high enough. Lisa Carter emerged from hiding once the dust settled. Her exposé earned her widespread acclaim, and she became a symbol of courage and integrity in journalism. Though she received countless offers to write books and appear on talk shows, she chose to stay focused on her work, determined to hold power accountable. Sam Bennett, too, found peace after years of disillusionment with the tech industry. He joined a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting ethical AI development, using his expertise to guide startups toward responsible practices. As the nation began to heal, conversations about technology shifted. People grew more cautious, demanding transparency and accountability from companies and governments alike. Schools added courses on ethics and innovation, and communities came together to discuss how best to balance progress with safety. Yet scars remained. Families affected by the Dallas explosion would never fully recover, and the tragedy served as a grim reminder of what could happen when greed and recklessness went unchecked. Memorials were erected in honor of the victims, their names etched into stone as a testament to the cost of complacency. For Pam, Jasmine, and Lisa, the road ahead promised to be long and challenging. Each carried their own burdens, doubts, and hopes for themselves, for their causes, and for the future of humanity. But one thing was certain: the choices they made had shaped the world in profound ways. And so, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, a fragile sense of hope took root. The battle against Novatech had exposed vulnerabilities not just in technology, but in society itself. It forced people to confront difficult questions about progress, ethics, and freedom. Whatever happened next, it was clear that nothing would ever be the same again. In the quiet moments that followed, Pam reflected on the journey. She thought about the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the lessons learned. As she looked out over the city skyline, she whispered a silent promise to herself and to the world: never again. The fallout from the Dallas explosion continued to ripple across the nation. Every day brought new headlines, new accusations, and new fears. Senator Pam Bondi and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett found themselves at the center of a storm that showed no signs of calming. Their rivalry, once confined to policy debates and committee meetings, had spilled into the public eye, turning into a battle for hearts and minds. Pam wasted no time capitalizing on the tragedy. She called an emergency session of the Senate, demanding answers about the oversight, or lack thereof, that allowed Novatech's drones to malfunction so catastrophically. Standing at the podium in the Grand Chamber, her voice echoed with authority. "This is not just a failure of technology," she said, her eyes scanning the room. "It's a failure of leadership. We trusted corporations to police themselves, and look where it got us: thousands dead, families shattered, and a city in ruins." Her words struck a chord with many Americans who were already uneasy about AI. Social media buzzed with hashtags like "Regulate AI" and "Car Safety First," and opinion polls showed growing support for stricter regulations. Pam's team worked tirelessly, behind the scenes, organizing rallies and pushing allies in Congress to back her proposed legislation. She was determined to turn the tragedy into an opportunity to reshape the future. Jasmine, however, wasn't about to let Pam dominate the narrative. Within hours of Pam's speech, she held her own press conference, standing confidently before a sea of reporters. "Yes, this was a tragedy," Jasmine began, her tone measured but firm. "But blaming innovation won't bring those lives back. What we need now is accountability, transparency, and above all, solutions." She went on to argue that shutting down AI development would only delay progress and leave humanity vulnerable to even greater threats, like climate change and global pandemics. The two women traded barbs in interviews, op-eds, and late-night talk shows. Each tried to paint the other as out of touch, one too cautious, the other too reckless. The media ate it up, framing their clash as a battle between tradition and modernity, safety and ambition. It became impossible to turn on the news without hearing their names mentioned. Amidst the chaos, Lisa Carter kept digging. With Alex Moore's help, she had pieced together more evidence linking Novatech to the explosion. Internal emails revealed that engineers had flagged critical flaws in the drone software months earlier, but were told to prioritize speed over safety. Worse still, some memos hinted at deliberate attempts to cover up these warnings. Lisa knew she had a blockbuster story on her hands, but breaking it wouldn't be easy. One evening, as Lisa reviewed her notes in her cramped apartment, a knock came at her door. Startled, she peeked through the peephole and saw Kevin Doyle, Jasmine's chief strategist, standing outside. Kevin had always struck Lisa as ambitious but principled, someone who genuinely cared about making a difference. Still, she hesitated before opening the door. "Lisa," Kevin said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His face was pale, his usual confidence replaced by nervousness. "I need your help, and you're going to want mine." After locking the door, Lisa crossed her arms. "What are you talking about?" Kevin glanced around the room, then lowered his voice. "Jasmine doesn't know I'm here, but I've seen things that don't add up. You've been looking into Novatech, right? Well, so have I, and what I've found, it's bad." Over the next hour, Kevin shared everything he knew. He revealed that Novatech had secretly funneled millions of dollars into Jasmine's campaign, using shell companies to hide the transactions. In return, Jasmine had promised to push for deregulation that would benefit the company. Kevin hadn't realized the extent of the deal until recently, when he stumbled upon a confidential agreement buried in old files. Lisa listened intently, her mind racing. This was exactly the kind of bombshell she needed to blow the lid off the scandal. But she couldn't trust Kevin completely, not yet. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked finally. "If what you're saying is true, why not go straight to the authorities?" Kevin sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I don't know who to trust anymore. If I go public, I'll be destroyed. But if someone else breaks the story, first maybe I can distance myself from it. Just promise me one thing, don't mention my name." Lisa agreed reluctantly, though she suspected Kevin had ulterior motives. Still, his information was too valuable to ignore. After he left, she spent the rest of the night cross-referencing his claims with her own research. Everything checked out. Novatech wasn't just negligent, it was corrupt, and Jasmine was complicit. Armed with this new evidence, Lisa decided to contact Pam Bondi directly. She drafted an anonymous email, attaching key documents and explaining their significance. She knew reaching out to Pam was risky. The senator might dismiss her as a conspiracy theorist or worse, expose her identity. But Lisa felt she had no choice. Time was running out. To her surprise, Pam responded almost immediately. The message was brief but clear. "Meet me tomorrow morning at my office. Come alone." The next day, Lisa arrived at the Capitol building, clutching a folder filled with printed copies of her findings. A staffer escorted her to Pam's private office, where the senator greeted her with a wary smile. "You've got 5 minutes," Pam said, gesturing to a chair. "Make them count." Lisa took a deep breath and laid out her case. She explained how Novatech had ignored safety warnings, covered up risks, and bribed politicians to push its agenda. She handed over the documents, watching closely as Pam flipped through them. For a moment, the room was silent except for the rustling of paper. Finally, Pam looked up, her expression unreadable. "If this is true," she said slowly, "it changes everything." "It's true," Lisa replied firmly. "And if you act on it, you can stop them." Pam nodded thoughtfully. "Leave the files with me. I'll look into it further. But understand something. If this blows up in our faces, neither of us will walk away unscathed." As Lisa left the office, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped onto a battlefield. Meanwhile, Pam began strategizing. She knew exposing Novatech would require careful timing and undeniable proof. One misstep could ruin her career and cost countless lives. Back in Texas, Jasmine faced mounting pressure. Her approval ratings were plummeting, and whispers of betrayal spread among her staff. Even Kevin seemed distant lately, avoiding eye contact and skipping meetings. Jasmine dismissed it as stress, but deep down she sensed trouble brewing. Then one morning she received a call from Richard Grayson, Novatech's CEO. His voice was cold and clipped. "We have a problem," he said. "Someone's leaking information. You need to get ahead of this before it spirals out of control." Jasmine clenched her fists, frustration boiling over. "I'm doing everything I can," she shot back. "But if your company messed up, don't expect me to take the fall for it." Grayson chuckled darkly. "Oh, Congresswoman, you misunderstand. If this goes south, we all go down together. So I suggest you start thinking about damage control." "Anything go up?" Jasmine sank into her chair, her mind racing. She had always believed in the power of innovation to transform society, but now for the first time she wondered if she'd gone too far. Had she sacrificed her principles for ambition? And if so, could she undo the damage before it was too late? Across the country, tensions simmered. Protesters took to the streets, demanding justice for the victims of the Dallas explosion. Some carried signs calling for a ban on AI, while others urged caution rather than panic. Politicians scrambled to pick sides, knowing the decisions they made now would define their legacies. For Pam, Jasmine, and Lisa, the stakes had never been higher. Each woman carried secrets, doubts, and hopes, for themselves, for their causes, and for the future of humanity. As the pieces fell into place, one thing was certain: the coming days would test them all in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The nation was on edge. Every news channel, every social media feed, and every conversation revolved around the scandal surrounding Novatech Industries. The evidence Pam Bondi had gathered was about to be released, and the anticipation felt like a storm ready to break. For weeks, the country had been divided, some siding with Pam's calls for strict regulation, others supporting Jasmine Crockett's vision of innovation. But now, it seemed like the truth would finally come out. Pam sat in her office late at night, reviewing the final draft of her report. It was a detailed document filled with emails, memos, whistleblower testimonies, and technical data, all pointing to Novatech's negligence and corruption. She knew that releasing it would make her enemies powerful and dangerous, but she also knew she couldn't stay silent. "This isn't just about me," she muttered to herself as she signed the last page. "It's about protecting people." Early the next morning, Pam held a press conference in front of the Capitol building. Reporters packed the area, cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. Standing behind a podium adorned with the seal of the United States Senate, Pam took a deep breath before speaking. Her voice was calm but firm, cutting through the noise like a blade. "Today, I am releasing evidence that exposes one of the greatest betrayals of public trust in modern history," she began. "Novatech Industries, a company entrusted with developing advanced technologies, has repeatedly ignored safety protocols, suppressed warnings, and prioritized profit over human life. Their actions led directly to the tragedy in Dallas, and they continue to pose a threat to our future as..." Pam spoke. Large screens displayed excerpts from the documents Lisa Carter had uncovered. Emails showed executives dismissing engineers' concerns. Financial records revealed bribes paid to politicians. And blueprints outlined the sinister Erebus project, a plan to use AI to manipulate human behavior on a massive scale. The room erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions while others scrambled to file stories. Across the country, people watched live broadcasts, their faces reflecting shock, anger, and disbelief. Social media exploded with reactions. Some praised Pam for her courage, calling her a hero. Others accused her of exaggeration or political gamesmanship. Jasmine Crockett watched the press conference from her apartment, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. Her heart sank as she saw the evidence against Novatech laid bare. She had always believed in the power of technology to improve lives, but now she realized how naive she had been. Richard Grayson and his team had lied to her, used her, and left her holding the bag. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from colleagues and supporters asking for explanations. Most were sympathetic, but some were accusatory. One text stood out: "You're finished." It came from an unknown number, and its simplicity chilled her to the bone. Desperate to salvage what little credibility she had left, Jasmine decided to act. She called Kevin Doyle and demanded an emergency meeting. When he arrived, his face was pale and drawn. "We need to fix this," she said without preamble. "I can't let them destroy me, or you." Kevin nodded slowly. "What do you have in mind?" "I'm going to tell the truth," Jasmine replied. "Everything about the money, the deals, the lies. If we come clean now, maybe we can still make a difference." Kevin hesitated. "Are you sure? This could end your career." "It already has," Jasmine said bitterly. "But if I don't fight back, I'll lose more than my job. I'll lose myself. That evening, Jasmine held her own press conference. Unlike Pam's polished presentation, Jasmine's appearance was raw and emotional. She stood alone at a podium, her voice trembling as she admitted her mistakes. "I was wrong," she confessed. "I trusted Novatech because I believed in their vision, but I didn't see the full picture. They deceived me, just as they deceived everyone else. What happened in Dallas was not an accident, it was preventable, and I share responsibility for allowing it to happen." Tears welled up in her eyes as she continued. "But I refuse to be complicit any longer. From this moment forward, I will work alongside anyone who wants to hold Novatech accountable and ensure that such a tragedy never happens again." The room fell silent as journalists processed her words. Some applauded, moved by her honesty. Others remained skeptical, questioning whether her apology was genuine or merely a desperate attempt to save face. Either way, Jasmine's admission marked a turning point in the scandal. Behind the scenes, Lisa Carter worked feverishly to finish her exposé. With Sam Bennett's help, she had secured additional evidence linking Novatech to other incidents of misconduct. Drones malfunctioning in remote areas, experimental neural implants causing seizures in test subjects, covert lobbying efforts influencing legislation, all of it pointed to a pattern of recklessness and greed. But danger lurked closer than ever. The black car Lisa had noticed days earlier was now parked outside her apartment almost every night. Strange men lingered near her favorite coffee shop. Even Sam warned her that Novatech might escalate their tactics. "They're scared," he said during one of their encrypted calls. "And scared people do desperate things." Lisa refused to back down. "If I stop now, they win," she told him. "I won't let that happen." Sam sighed. "Then promise me one thing. Don't go anywhere alone, not even for a minute." Lisa agreed, though she knew it wouldn't stop whoever was after her. Still, she pressed on, determined to publish her story before it was too late. Meanwhile, Novatech scrambled to contain the fallout. Richard Grayson convened an emergency board meeting, where tempers flared and accusations flew. "How did we let this happen?" one executive demanded. "We're supposed to be untouchable." Grayson slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. Blame won't solve anything. We need damage control now." Plans were set in motion to discredit Pam Bondi and Jasmine Crockett. Fake news articles appeared online, accusing them of fabricating evidence for personal gain. Social media bots spread conspiracy theories, sowing confusion among the public. Private investigators were hired to dig up dirt on Lisa Carter, hoping to silence her permanently. Despite these efforts, the tide was turning against Novatech. Lawmakers from both parties called for investigations. Protesters gathered outside the company's headquarters, chanting slogans like, "No more cover-ups," and "Justice for Dallas." Investors began pulling out, sending the company's stock plummeting. In Washington, Pam and Jasmine found themselves working together for the first time. Though their relationship remained strained, they shared a common goal: bringing Novatech to justice. Pam introduced bipartisan legislation aimed at banning invasive AI technologies and imposing stricter regulations on tech companies. Jasmine threw her support behind the bill, using her influence to rally hesitant colleagues. Their newfound alliance drew mixed reactions. Some praised them for putting aside differences to serve the greater good. Others dismissed it as opportunism, suggesting that Jasmine was simply trying to save face. Regardless of motives, their combined efforts gave the legislation real momentum. As the weeks passed, the pressure mounted. Novatech fought back fiercely, deploying lawyers, lobbyists, and PR teams to defend their reputation. But the evidence against them was overwhelming. Whistleblowers came forward corroborating Lisa's findings. Former employees described toxic workplace cultures and unethical practices. Even some of Novatech's own investors turned against the company, demanding accountability. Lisa finally published her exposé titled "Erebus Unmasked: The Dark Truth About Novatech." The article went viral within hours, sparking outrage across the globe. Readers were horrified by the details of the Erebus project and the lengths Novatech had gone to conceal it. Calls for criminal charges grew louder, and protests intensified. One night, as Lisa reviewed comments on her article, there was a knock at her door. She froze, remembering Sam's warning. Grabbing a baseball bat, she crept toward the entrance and peered through the peephole. To her relief, it was Sam. He looked exhausted but determined. "They're coming for you," he said urgently as soon as she opened the door. "We don't have much time." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked, her voice shaking. "I intercepted a message," Sam explained. "Novatech hired mercenaries to take you out. They think silencing you will stop the story." Lisa's blood ran cold. "What do we do?" Sam handed her a backpack. "I've arranged safe houses. You'll need to disappear for your own safety." Lisa hesitated. Running meant abandoning everything she cared about, but staying meant risking her life. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, let's go." As they slipped out of the building through a back exit, Lisa glanced back at her apartment one last time. She didn't know when, or if, she'd ever return. All she knew was that the fight wasn't over. No matter what happened next, the truth would come out. Across the city, Pam and Jasmine prepared for the final push. Together they drafted speeches, rallied allies, and strategized ways to counter Novatech's resistance. Both women understood the risks they were taking, but neither was willing to back down. The battle lines had been drawn, and the stakes had never been higher. Powerful forces moved in the shadows, ready to strike. Yet amidst the chaos and uncertainty, hope flickered like a candle in the dark. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the world would never be the same again.